Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the HB Studio podcast with Tim and Kristen. In episode 6, we have our very first guest, and his name is John Bost. Now, John is a stalwart of information. He has over 50 years' experience in education, spanning the preschool years through graduate school. 20 years were spent in the public school sector, serving the classroom in all sciences, followed by 8 years' experience in administration, and now over 20 years in community development. John has served 7 years on the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Planning Board, various early childhood initiatives, the Infant Mortality Coalition, and has been actively involved in several community development corporations. Join Kristen and myself for a great conversation in part 1 of our interview with John Bost. Check it out. Welcome to the HB Studio podcast with Tim and Kristen, where it's not business, it's personal.
But Tim, our businesses are personal.
Indeed it is, Kristen. So today's, ladies and gentlemen, we are here with the one and only John Bost. I guess you could say North Carolina historian, theologian. The man has many titles.
You know what I call him? I call him a good guy.
He's a great gentleman.
He's a good guy.
He's a great gentleman. Welcome to the podcast, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Kristen, you've known John for a while.
I have. It's funny because when I got reintroduced, and not by means of a formal introduction, but when our worlds overlapped yet again, I can't even count the number of times our lives have overlapped in different capacities. But the very first time was many years ago when I had just started my career at Historic Broyhill. John and a business partner came in to look for an office space. And that's been so long ago, both of us almost forgot that we had those major collaborations for a long time. And so John was officially one of my tenants, which is quite funny to think about.
And then, I never came in.
Yeah,
I was in the office maybe twice.
He came in to do the hard negotiation, and that's when we realized that we were going to be good partners because we can both negotiate decently well.
That second fiddle, man.
So, and then I think maybe we started overlapping again in some community outreach type initiatives like the Louisville Clemens Chamber of Commerce. You had a great hand in founding that. So they say.
Yeah. Well,
do you say too?
Again, I second fiddle. You mentioned that. I don't like the front.
He's a good guy.
This is awkward.
He's awesome.
Well, and so that I think that was the second time that I really got to be involved in your sphere and understand you a little bit more as a community leader. And I can speak very confidently about that, as you're very well known and regarded in this community and outward, of just being a good steward of the word community and partnership and alliance and things like that. So I joined the chamber as a member, and then I dipped my toe and got on the board. And then from that, I stayed on the board, and then I became president. And then I stayed on the board after that. And then 5 years later, I became president again. And this year, that is my current role in the organization, and I had the pleasure of introducing our past presidents at a meeting that we had this year. And John was there.
Hey.
And he got introduced, and he said, I gotta be honest, I've never been the president of this organization. We're like, what the heck's going on here? And he said, I just helped start the thing. And that's the kind of guy John is. You know, he doesn't command the spotlight, but somehow he takes it. And I love that.
Well, sometimes people think I start things when really I was just invited to a meeting. You know, I came and I kept coming, and Brad Hunter and others were gathering at River Oaks Presbyterian, if not before then, at a restaurant in Louisville, if I remember right.
I think so.
And so I just kind of got involved, and then over the years, with Master Council Technologies and other things here that I've been a part of, I was invited to whatever a year or so ago, planning for the annual celebration. And what was it? What was the year?
Annual celebration of what?
Of the Louisville Clemens Chamber.
Yeah. Oh, just the birthday?
the
birthday
birthday.
event.
And so we gathered at Dana's place at the
Village
Crosby.
Inn. Yeah.
And we were all talking, and then the next thing I knew is I get an invitation to sit with all the presidents.
Right.
That's how I got in the
And
room.
we were there.
And I was shocked.
Right.
When you walked up to me, or whoever was going around to the presidents, and I'm like, and I was the first one. I'm like, I'm not a president. You understand? I didn't.
And then he
stand
came
up.
back this year and did it again. He had to say, I am not a president. Doggone it. I'm not a president.
Yeah.
Well, and so then you still didn't go after that because now you're involved heavily with the Shallow Ford Foundation, who is also headquartered here at Historic Broyhill. And you are very pivotal in their mission. And actually, yesterday, John and I were at a Piedmont Orchestra concert that was hosted here at the Historic Broyhill.
Well received, too.
The Shallow Ford. It was a packed house.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we just keep kind of interweaving, and here we are in a podcast together. And I just have to know how you two met, though.
So, actually, it's your fault.
It usually is.
It's your fault.
Usually is.
John, being the astute individual he is, came across our podcast. And he liked
The Tim and Kristen?
Yeah, the HB studio. And he reached out. I believe David Haneen is also a Facebook kind of a median there, but yeah, John reached out and we had a great conversation. He invited me over to the cabin. If you haven't been to the cabin, folks, it's a great spot. It's serene. I don't know. It's calming. I like it.
It's permitted. The nicest shed in Clemens.
There you go.
It is permitted.
It's permitted. It is.
I didn't just build a cabin.
We had a great conversation, and you know, here we are. And John was talking to me about some things he wants to do with his knowledge and his background in life, and wow,
here we are.
Well,
The trifecta.
When you're at 76, my wife says 75 because you're actually, when you're 76, you've completed 76. She says you've only completed 75.
Correct.
So she won't let me say I'm 76. So I'm 75. But when you're at 75, you begin to sense an exit ramp. I tell people when I'm talking to them, if my body falls off, call Donna. She'll know what to do with it. I'll be out of here. But, you know, at 75, you learn a lot of things, especially if you grew up blue collar poverty. And now only 2 to 3 generations away in a situation where, you know, you really don't have needs. And yet at the same time, from a spiritual perspective, aware of the wealth gap that's occurred across not only our nation, but specifically in our county. And so that's been the driver behind my whole community piece. I love community, you know, and I can't hardly, because it's who I am, I can't hardly talk about anything without sometimes people thinking I'm religious. To me, that's an insult. I'm not really into religion that much. I'm a Christ follower. And to me, that's all about community. And of course, there are times when you enjoy the fellowship of people who believe similar to you. But when I moved to Clemens, not only did I remember it from a small town that I used to come to when we'd sneak into Tanglewood and fish, because we couldn't afford the fee, whatever it was, $2. I don't know what it was at that
I think
time.
it's still $2.
It may still be. But, you know,
Good old Tanglewood.
when we moved here and we'd cashed out from our house in Lexington that we'd built to retire at 50 to come to Winston-Salem at an invitation to a large growing church as an executive pastor because of build out of a campus, and that's the sort of thing that I was doing for the school system. When it came time for me to realize that I had shortchanged my wife in terms of her gift of hospitality, and one day she said, John, I don't even have a house relative to what we did have because I wasn't sure where life would take us. So I said, look, I'll just build you a house. I did it before and do it again. And I drove out to a place I remembered as almost a crossroads when I was growing up called Clemens, and rode by the place where we live now and heard, as whether it's the way I'm wired or whatever, heard a voice say to me, that's where I need you to live. And I looked into the place nice place. And I said, God, I don't really need that. I'm comfortable with a lot less than that. And the word I heard was, yes, but the people whose lives that need to be involved need to do it.
The HB Studio Podcast is brought to you by the historic Roy Hill in Clemens, North Carolina. The opinions and thoughts presented on this podcast are that of Kristen, Tim, and their guests alone. Our goal is to bring positive motivation through real-life experiences and training as business professionals. Thank you for listening.